Pennington. Bruce's daughter.
It's
Julie Pennington. Bruce Pennington's
so that's
daughter.
what's that?
What date was that?
Landlords.
Fourth week.
Yeah, she was actually in Jordan close
It's in the
enough.
resolution.
And they were started to
27th,
bond. Yeah, she thought they were just celebrating fireworks.
Oh.
She woke up the next morning and she was ready to leave anyway.
Did she get out?
She got out just fine.
That's gonna be scary.
Oh yeah, her and her daughter were over there and heard the noise. And,
Is she vacationing or?
you know, she travels everywhere, all over, all the time. So I'm gonna guess I had something work related.
Yep. Okay.
Where she's not much of a recreator. It's all work. Even though she's retired.
Okay. We gotta do this. She lives in Mason City then, or?
Lives in a motorhome and drives all over.
Okay.
And I think she
yes, so that's what I forwarded to you yesterday.
established a
We
residence in
have the draft
California.
agreement.
So
Then today at 4 o'clock, we have our meeting downtown.
I don't know where
With
she
that
lives.
email that you have.
I just have a phone number.
Can't mail or anything, huh? Or email.
Email.
Okay.
I don't mail anything to her.
Sure.
I didn't print that stuff that Steve sent me Saturday.
Okay.
Good morning.
Okay.
Hi.
Good morning. Morning, Bob.
And clean this stuff, did we?
What's that?
I don't think we had any drainage claims.
No. I did some research on those. State code is says road has to pay 9%.
Hi, Boyd. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello there, Boyd. Drainage district
Projects.
project.
Right, so when the company that
Set up for
started
another meeting, probably.
those, you'll have that retained, it's just like we have with our law enforcement. Not for engineering, just for project
Work
work.
out for both.
Right.
Okay.
They completed their work by the time they built it. And that's what we've got, just like with our courthouse project, that's what we're bonding for and all of that, that in case they don't pay or don't Fulton Mink has to, just like Samuel's crew. Verifies everything.
See if they started working with that.
Yeah, but I heard Erwin Johnson called last week. I don't know why that TV's not working again, but a message.
All right, that's ready. Okay, it's 9 a.m. and I'll call the October 30th meeting of the Floyd County Board of Supervisors to order. First item on the agenda is approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Kiefer to approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 2, public comment. Time reserved for anyone who can comment in person or on the phone regarding any item that's not on our agenda.
I'll speak.
Chair recognizes Kathy
Kathy Carter,
Carter.
Rockford. I would speak in favor of pursuing some ordinances regarding the CO2 pipelines and the wind turbines and solar energy as well. We know that Navigator has pulled its project, its CO2 pipeline project, but it's not necessarily dead in the water because the legal language means that it could be revived at some point. More likely, its Summit is negotiating with them to buy their options on easements as well as their ethanol partner contracts. Even if Navigator is dead and Summit's not doing that, we know that Summit's not dead. We don't know when the hearings are going to end. We don't know when the decision is going to be made. If we wait until the next legislative session to pursue something on eminent domain, it'll be too late. There will be other projects. We know that. So I would urge you to, and the planning and zoning, to push for some very sturdy ordinances. I emailed each of you this weekend a number of links. One of those links is from a meeting where Steve Kinkle, the Shelby County Supervisor, spoke to this meeting. And of course, Shelby County is in the thick of it as far as creating, they were very proactive on the ordinances. As a result of that, yes, Summit is trying to litigate, but they are forging ahead. Shelby County is forging ahead as well as other counties. And Steve spoke to that meeting with a list of things that the counties can still do. Please do. Also, there is the link to the PHMSA letter. There was a webinar. I think maybe each of you, or at least a couple of you, have watched that webinar about PHMSA explaining what the counties still have the fortitude to do. So I will give you a hard copy of that email that I sent to each of you with those links. And again, please push for some ordinances. Your citizens need that help. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Any other public comments this time? Not. Item 3, review and action regarding approval of the October 23rd, 2023 minutes of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 23rd, 2023 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen, to approve the October 23rd Board of Supervisors minutes. Further discussion? Any comments from anyone listening on the call-in line? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion to approve the October 23rd minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion is carried. Item 4, review action regarding the approval of the claims.
Make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Kiefer, to approve the claims in the latest claims run as presented. Any further discussion? No? All right. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The claims are approved. updates on various boards, commissions, activities since the last meeting.
I have not attended any. Dennis was gracious enough to cover for me. So,
Yeah, we attended the EMS meeting, and we had a lady from Jones County and one from Osceola County that are in charge of EMS in those counties. And they just kind of picked their brains to see what they did to get EMS passed. Patrick Lumley was good about asking for information, and so it was, I think, a good meeting. So also attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, business improvement meeting in town, and also attended a summit video on water use for their pipeline, their request for the Goldfield water plant, the ethanol plant by Goldfield. So that's what I did.
I attended at least partially the Iowa Workforce Development CEO meeting online. This quarterly meeting, and I attended the Tri-State Area Development monthly meeting. There were two items that I discussed. One was the recent developments in the Summit Carbon Solutions pipeline process, Navigator, its impact on here in Floyd County. And there was a presentation given by Inver Energy regarding their proposed plans for wind energy in Floyd County. And some questions followed on both those items. Item 6, update on Law Enforcement Center Courthouse project.
Well, things that are remaining to be completed, we visit a little bit about the bollard. It's been frustrating. Chloe and I asked for that to be done by the 1st of September, and it still isn't finished. I think there's still some hardware in the law enforcement center and the doors and locks that the company from Oklahoma was supposed to finish, and they didn't. Sweeper was, I think, the name of that company, and they handed it over to NOAA, a different company, I think, to finish. And
Samuel's group handed it.
yeah, the Samuels group did, yeah. So, but I don't think that's been completed yet. Some plaster needs to be repaired, and we're waiting to get some estimates on that. Old plaster that was damaged during the construction. So just kind of some things that have been a little bit frustrating to get finished. So, Gloria, have anything to add?
No, on the Jason, I don't know if Jason's on or not. If so, you can chime in, Jason. But Jason sent an email asking if we wanted to pursue having Dean Schneider do the plaster work through the PCO that we had. I don't know offhand have the PCO number that it was, but it was one that we entertained some time ago for over $40,000, and we tried locally to see if we could get anybody to do the work, and we're unsuccessful. And so he's proposed that we have Dean Schneider do that. I went back to them, responded back to them saying, is there any reason we have to go through Dean Schneider? Can we just do this direct ourselves, since it's not part of the project? I mean, it's part of the project, but
Save some money.
it's, if we could do it otherwise locally outside of the project, why can't we do it outside of the project with the oversight of Samuel's group? Anyway, it save us probably $4,000 or $5,000 at least. Timing is going to be the issue on it. I don't know that we'll have anything done by our time you want to do an open house. And the only other thing I have is hopefully I'll find something out today from City of Charles City on specifications for the sidewalk out here for handicap accessibility. And from Brian from City Hall, and fingers crossed we can still get that work done this fall yet, but we're pushing the limit on that now too. there is, you've seen the list that I have, there's probably about 15 items that are still unaddressed with the project that I think we need to do a call to Jason and ask him where he's at with all of that, because that is all part of the
We
scope
haven't had
of
a
the
meeting with
project.
them for a couple of
Before I
months.
went on vacation, so it's been a month.
Do you have his phone number? Let's give him a call.
I might have You got it? Got it. 515-631.
That's the one that's been changed. He's got an update
Oh, is
on
that?
his email, yeah.
Oh,
That's the one I just tried calling and Verizon said its number has been changed. Seven, 9, 3, 3, 6, 1. Hey, Jason, we're in a board meeting. The board would like to have you included on a phone conversation here. Put you on speakerphone, okay? Okay.
Jason, good morning. This is Dennis Kiefer. Pretty good. We're discussing what needs to be finished with the courthouse yet, Jason, and it's becoming kind of frustrating to some degree. And the bollard out front, you know, we asked for that to be there by the 1st of September, and it's not there yet. Gloria sent a question regarding, an email regarding having the flasher repaired by someone not using Snyder Construction.
Right.
Have you got any recommendations or suggestions for that stuff, Jason?
Hey,
I reached
Jason,
out. Yeah, go ahead.
Jason, there's that whole list of things that we talked about the last time you hear, probably 15 different items that are unresolved yet, like the ceiling in the board office, the plaster work not done where the radiators were removed, bolts not cut off where radiators were, holes not plugged, where things go from one floor to the next floor, painting, there's tape all over the place in the courthouse, grout that's broken out. I don't have that list with me, but there's a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, no, I sent that out to the respective contractors. I'm gonna be following up with that. I'm gonna stop by. I'm on my way to the court tomorrow, but I'm gonna stop by the courthouse again tomorrow morning, mid-morning, and have Tyler with Young's meet me there. Try to have Seth meet me there as well to talk about this plaster repair work and stuff else, because he had the one company that could do it, but they couldn't do it until December. I'd reached out to Heartland here and from our office here, they said they were too busy to do it. If I were doing it, my recommendation would be to use the company that Dean Snyder had reached out to and just contract with them directly.
Is there a pro wall? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, it was Pro Wall.
Okay. What about the bollard?
Ballard, I ordered that from APC, gosh, 2 months ago, and I sent all that information to Seth with Dean to give them a PO to write to them because I had the price worked up. We had set in that one meeting, had all the details figured out on it. And I sent all that information to Seth to get it coordinated because they had the pricing, they had the shipping address, they knew all the details on it. So I would have thought it would have been taken care of by now since I passed all that on to Seth. So I'll follow up with him again today to see where the heck he is with that thing because I did all the legwork for him, gave him everything he needs, the details, the pricing, the contact, the shipping address, and everything else. So I will follow up with him today after this call to figure out where he's at with that because, like I said, I gave him everything he needed.
When you find out, can you let Gloria and I know what the status is?
I will send you an email as soon as I find out from him and copy both of you.
You can let us know what time you're all gonna be here. Maybe Dennis could be here as well tomorrow when you come by.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to set it up for 11 o'clock.
Okay.
I've got a meeting in the morning. I have to attend, then I can head out.
And what about the detention? 3rd and 4th floor detention areas?
So they had a couple of cylinders that were needed because Pat wanted to be able to lock it and unlock it from the inside. And actually, I got a call out of the blue, if you can believe it or not, from Sweeper, saying they had some material ready to be installed to go up there and do it. And I said, we've already got this taken care of through Noah detention. And he said he had some cylinders and some other material. I said, just send it to Pat at the sheriff's office and everything else will be taken care of on your end. So just ship whatever parts that you had, which I need to check with Pat tomorrow on there to see if he actually did receive them because it might be the cylinders that we were waiting for the inside.
Okay.
And I think there was an extra cover plate that was needed because one of the locks is like a recessed lock and he had a flat cover plate. He needs the one that goes back into the door. Aaron's aware of all that with no detention. He has what was remaining in order to get here.
Okay, and then just, again, I don't have my list with me of the 15 things or so that we went through the last time you were here, but if we can get those things wrapped up.
Yes, I would love to do that. That's why I'm still only retaining on people to get it done, but that doesn't get the project done. So I will, like I said, have a meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I'll confirm that with you, Dennis. I'll send you an email making sure that we'll just pick just meet in the boardroom there or what. Is it available tomorrow?
Gloria's checking, it should be probably.
It is available.
It is available, Jason, at 11. You'll be here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just confirm with me as well. If I've got an election going on, but if I'm not busy, I'd like to be a part of it because I've got the list of all the other items that are unfinished.
Yep, I've got all the photographs to go along with it, so I will be there tomorrow.
All right. Anything else, Gloria?
If I have to, I'll just bring my tool belt, my own stuff, fix it myself.
That was recorded, Jason. We're counting on you, and seriously, we want to resolve these issues as soon as possible. So, sounds like we got a commitment for you to contact the contractors by tomorrow, and hopefully they can have some responses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And I'm only half kidding about it. If I have to do it, I'll do it myself.
All right.
People don't respond. We've got to get that.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
I don't think you'll be able to do everything on the list.
I'm pretty handy.
That ceiling in the boardroom's pretty rough and a lot of plasterwork's pretty rough.
Did they do the water repair the one day they had to shut the water off to the building to repair that leak in the closet?
I think they did. Was that up on the
I don't
second
know.
floor? No.
It was like a Thursday, they were gonna have to shut the water off to be able to fix that leak in the closet.
In the boardroom. Yeah, I haven't looked to see if the Samuels Group hard hat is still in water or not. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one they were supposed to fix like a couple of weeks ago on Thursday.
The water did get shut off one day. While I was on vacation, it got shut off.
Yeah, that would have been for that leak.
Okay. I'll check after the meeting.
And I'll look at it tomorrow when I'm there too, just double check.
Okay,
Anything else? All right, thanks, Jason.
Do you have the information for ProWall
from the
quote that-
PCO. Yeah, we have the
Yeah, the
PCO.
Insider.
I'm sure it's on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be my recommendation to reach out to them directly. That way you're not paying for any markup or overhead from the insider on that because they're going to do the work anyway. And it's way past for them to be taking care of anything. I would recommend contracting with them directly to save some money.
Okay. All right.
We can talk about that tomorrow. I'll review the scope, and if you want, I'll just reach out to ProWall myself and coordinate that for you. That way you don't have to deal with it. But I just would do a markup on the insiders end.
Okay.
That sounds like a good idea.
They're gonna put 10% on whatever their price was. And that's another $3,700 you're gonna save.
Just doing when they can get it done. I think that's why you were gonna check with Parkland.
Yeah,
Because of timing to
they
get work
at
done.
first they said they could. They came back and said they could. So.
Okay.
Anyway, I will be there tomorrow and I'll see you at 11.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
All right, very good. Further discussion on this agenda item? All right, hopefully we'll have a good meeting tomorrow. Get something accomplished. Moving to agenda item 7, the 9:15 a.m. public hearing on amending the current year county budget. At this time, I'll open up the budget hearing. Auditor Carr, did you receive any written or oral comments in support or opposed to the proposed budget amendment?
No, never heard anything in support of or opposition to the amendment.
This amendment, of course, is for the Victory Avenue Bridge project, which was funded through state and federal pass-through reimbursement funds. And there's no net increase in no increase in taxes at all. It's a $1.7 million revenue and expense to the county. There any comments from any member of the public or anyone listening on the conference calling line? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on the fiscal year 23-24 county budget. Any further discussion from members of the board?
No.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item, which is review and action resolution 40-23, which is the budget amendment and appropriations for the $1.7 million change in the county engineer's budget. Is there a motion to approve resolution 40-23?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 40-23, budget amendment and appropriations.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Keeper, seconded by Jorgensen to approve resolution 40-23, budget amendment appropriations. To amend the budget for $1.7 million. Creating the intergovernmental revenues amendment for the federal grant for Victor Avenue Bridge. Commands of $1.7 million, and the expenses comes from the capital projects line, amending to $2,065,000, the total amendment of which is $1.7 million. Is there any comment from anyone listening on the conference call-in line or anyone in person? Hearing none, Auditor Carr, would you call the roll on the resolution?
Kiefer,
Yes.
Jorgensen,
Yes.
Aye. Resolution 40-23, budget amendment and appropriation is approved. Item 9, review action regarding approval of 3 sheriff vehicles with the American Rescue Plan funding. We talked about this in our last meeting. We had some questions regarding this, that they were going to talk to the dealer down in Des Moines about this. I see Officer Bartz is here. We did receive an email from Officer Bartz talking about the warranty at Carl Chevrolet and when it started. Sheriff Crooks is now joining us. Good morning, Sheriff. And so we have some new information. One of them is available right now. So gentlemen, why don't you present that information that you received regarding the 3 vehicles?
I'll let Lieutenant Bartz, since he did talk to him.
So I talked to Carl about the issues of the insurance and the warranty. The insurance would begin when we pick up the vehicle. They initially said the warranty would begin when the vehicles hit the lot. I basically researched that, talked to Molstead as well, and the warranty actually begins when we pick up the vehicle. So I think what our plan was, I talked to the sheriff, and what Carl was recommending, because other agencies were having the same situation, was that currently they're going to work on 1 vehicle right now. If we get approved for the other 2, then when we go down here within a week or 2 to pick up the Tahoe that is done, we would make payment on all 3 vehicles, but then we would bring the other 2 Tahoes back with us and store them in our garage until about December, maybe January, when they can actually upfit the other 2 vehicles. That way, the warranty and the insurance would be under our control, but we would have physical possession of all 3 vehicles rather than them sitting down on the lot for 2 or 3 months.
That sounds favorable compared to the warranty starting when they got it on their lot. That's a good sign.
Correct.
And so they're going to do the updates to the 1 vehicle this in a week or so?
Yeah, it usually takes about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. So they're actually coming up to this morning to pick up our patrol car to take it down there and start taking that apart and start working on it 1 Tahoe. The other 2, they said, would probably be December, maybe January.
Okay, and so you're proposing to bring them back and store them, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. I know, Auditor Carr, you had some discussions with Elizabeth Gardner, our auditor, regarding that, and can you fill us in on those?
Yeah, so Elizabeth came while I was doing election training last week, so she left messages with my staff that they're seeing a trend with the same type of thing happening now since COVID. It's not their preference that things are paid for, especially months paid for before you take possession of something. And so it shouldn't be the normal to allow this type of purchase to happen. It should be the exception to the rules, but they are seeing it post-COVID. They're seeing this type of activity occur. She did emphasize that the warranty should start when we take possession of the vehicles, which is normal from what I've ever seen with new vehicles as well. So glad to hear that's different. The only part that, is I'll maybe use the word clumsy about this, is that we are, for 2 vehicles, we're gonna have warranty started and no operations of the vehicles, and insurance starting and no operations of the vehicles. So I think that's the intent why it doesn't seem like it's a good use of tax dollars to have something for months before you get to, you're using it. But again, that's not gonna be the norm, shouldn't be the practice to do business like this. But she is seeing that trend go that way.
I'll agree with you there, Gloria. The norm is, we talked with them, got a vehicle, got the vehicle upfitted, got our other vehicle all taken care of, and then went down, picked it up, and presented them a check as we picked them up. That's the norm.
Right.
This is very different from what we're usually used to.
And then the only other thing she said is just as long as since it's happening and it's likely going to happen, that it's done in the same fiscal year, so that won't be any problem.
Yeah.
Are the upfits done here, or are you taking back down?
Moving back down to Carl.
Okay. Or on the 2 vehicles?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's normally, just like I said, the car's there, goes in, gets upfitted, we go down, pick it up. I mean, it never usually leaves a lot. This is completely out of the norm for us as well.
Any other discussion? Any comment from anyone listening on the conference calling line? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the purchase and upfit of the vehicles, the 3 vehicles from the American Rescue Plan Act funds.
I will so move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen, to approve the purchase of the 3 sheriff vehicles and upfitting of the 1 vehicle from the American Rescue Plan Act. Further discussion?
From 1 vehicle or 3 vehicles for
The
upfit?
3.
Okay, just getting the 1 done. You just said upfitting of 1 vehicle. I just wanted to make sure you want rescue plan dollars to cover all of it.
Yes, sir.
Upfits.
Yes, I do. That was my intent. Correct. Thank you. Any comment?
No.
Well, good. I think this will resolve it and get it moving. I'm glad that you added additional comment with Carl Chevrolet, and I think it's unusual, but I think it's the way it's going to
Very
be this time.
unusual, and thank you.
Yeah. All right, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, the next item 10 is a discussion regarding scheduling a meeting with the mayors of Caldwell, Floyd, Marble Rock, North Springs, Rockford, and Rudd regarding the 2080 agreement, a law enforcement agreement the county has with to provide services to those communities. And we're not really discussing that agreement. We don't really have any mayors here. We're just discussing the time and determining the time when we'll have that meeting. It was normally held about the first meeting in November, so the communities could plan for their budget process. What's the wish of the board? When do you want to have this? Sooner than later?
I did get some, and I only provided the information that Travis had, just so you got that info, and then just one example of the 2080. They all look the same, other than North Springs has the hourly rate, but Travis's email to you kind of covers all that part. But I did hear back from 5 of the 6 mayors. 3 of them, I gave them first, second, third choice of the 13th, 20th, or 27th. And 3 of them were the 13th, 4 of them were the 13th as their first choice. Second choice, 4 of them were the 20th. And so I'm not sure where you want to go with that. 20th worked for all of them. One of them had the first choice of the 27th, but that doesn't work with one of them. and the one that had the 27th had the 13th as his last choice.
Those are Mondays.
So all three responded affirmative, they could meet on the all four.
Four out of 6 said the 13th. 4 out of, as their first choice, 4 out of the 5 that responded said the 20th for their second choice. And then one of them didn't have the 27th at all as an option to meet. But I think you're looking at between the 13th or the 20th.
Right.
20th works for everyone, or a 5 that responded. But so does the 13th work for the 5 that responded.
Okay.
You do have a busy day on the 13th with canvass of the election, and I think you can make this fit in there as well. I think there's something else for the 13th.
Sheriff's Office have a preference, the 13th or the 20th?
I should be available both days.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, either one, I would think the sooner is better, but also want sounds like the 20th gets more participation.
Actually,
It's all the same.
yeah, it's just the person who couldn't do, who's put the 13th as their last choice. At the 27th as the first choice, but the 27th one must not have worked with one of them at all because they didn't put that even as an option. 13th works for all of them. The one that had the 27th just had that as his third choice. But, and then I didn't hear from Randy Hassman from North Springs. He's the only one that hadn't responded.
13th, I think.
I think 13th would be fine.
All right, it's the item on our agenda is a discussion, so now we've found out the preferences, the 13th and the 20th, then we will set at our next meeting which of those two dates works best. Perhaps there'll be another communication we get back to someone from North Springs by that time, but
I don't think you necessarily have to set the date as long as it's
right.
by motion, but if you consensus is here, I'll let them know that it's the 13th.
I see. Okay.
I don't think it has to be a formal motion. The 2080 just says meet in November. So I think it's whatever the chair wants to put out there, but I just got the intent, what was worked for them.
All right, in view of that, what do you think, gentlemen? The 13th is my
13th is fine.
all right. Let the mayors know that we'll plan on having that on our agenda on Monday, November 13th. All right, thank you. Item 11 is a discussion of NIAGA quote letter for services to amend the county zoning ordinance pertaining to utility scale wind projects, utility scale solar energy projects, and battery storage. We've been talking about this at regular weekly meetings, and it was kind of the consensus of the board last time that we add utility scale solar to this discussion. And now we have a quote letter from NIACOG. John Robbins is here, and so that's what we're here to discuss. In your packet, you'll see and getting to it, the proposal set out by John regarding that. It is in a little more detail than the last time, talking about the number of listening sessions, workshops that we're interested in. John, I'll recognize you at this time and just have you go over the proposal that you've got. Thank you.
Sure. So in that letter, you'll see sort of a recommended process, just to kind of give you some guidance on meetings, so forth, that I would recommend take. You could add or subtract from that as you wish. Essentially, between the wind energy and the solar energy side of things, I would include battery storage with one of them, probably with the wind energy. I mean, it overlaps, of course, with both of those, but essentially same process each for those 2 to 3 listening sessions just to get input from the public, particularly for the Board of Supervisors, since it will be a decision that can always be relayed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Then also 1 to 2 workshops just to kind of educate Planning and Zoning Commission yourselves regarding the various topics, each of those types of uses, and then the general zoning ordinance amendment process as well. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, happy to do my best to answer those. But essentially, I would also recommend just separating those out so they don't get conflated together. And it can remain a task for the type of amendment that you're working on as you go through that. So I would recommend separating those out, just one and then the other, separate contracts if you prefer with that. Otherwise, that's essentially the summary of kind of what I would recommend you go through. Same amounts for solar as it would be for the wind energy as well.
In your letter, you talked about some estimated time frames for developing these ordinances, and that was from 3 to 6 months, depending on the number of meetings and that.
Right. If you went the full gamut, so to speak, I'd recommend that'd probably take up to 6 months, just so because you'll be separating out those different listening sessions, workshops. Generally, you would, if you with like workshops, you put them with your regular Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, so you don't have to do extra meetings. It's usually how I would recommend doing it, just to be more efficient with your time and how much time to ask out of your citizen volunteers that are part of that commission, that sort of thing. So that's generally why it might take longer. Just takes time, and you may amend it or revise it rather multiple times just to get it right for your needs.
So the time that it takes is an important determination when we get into this, because we have a citizen-led group that's going for a moratorium on the consideration of any permit, and so the research I've done on that states that you have to be very specific as to the length of the moratorium, and in other words, how long you're giving the Planning and Zoning Commission to develop something and get it to the Board of Supervisors. So that time frame is an important consideration if the board chose to consider enacting a moratorium. So 3 to 6 months again, does that mean for both of them a total of 6 months, or individually 3 to 6 months?
I'd say both. It might go quicker if you individualize those. I would, given that I'd recommend 2 to 3 listening sessions, workshops, I'd say 6 months individually. And then we can do these one at a time. We don't have to, could do the wind energy just so it stays on task, so to speak, and it doesn't confuse the public or whoever's involved during that process. So you're sticking on wind energy for one, and then you can move into the solar energy. So we could do those as separate contracts or as separate processes, just for clarity's sake, I would say. So yeah.
And is the battery storage, is that component is both wind and solar, correct?
Yeah, it is. I would probably, my thought is you'd still have a separate section for it. It'd be akin to substations, those kind of things. We'd have to figure out how that fits in your ordinance as well. But I would do that with one of those amendments. We were contracted with you.
One of the things I consistently hear from people who regularly come to these meetings, and it's obviously must be important to some of our citizens because they're here every time we talk about this, and I respect citizen involvement in this process. In fact, how it got started is we got a petition, is the need to get this done in a timely manner. And so I'm fully in support of whatever it takes as far as public input sessions and what you referred to as listening sessions to make sure that everybody's voice is heard in this. So if there's something for the board to consider about these listening sessions, is up to, you say in your proposal, you'd recommend for each of the amendments, 2 to 3 listening sessions to begin the process, and for the public to provide input, and generally recommend different times of the day, during the day or during the evening. And that would be a time for the developers or members of the public to reserve time if they choose to make a more formal presentation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All that sounds good to me. And you're proposing that those type of meetings are gonna, NICOG would charge
$200 per.
$200 for me.
Yep.
And then essentially you'd be here.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Just so I can hear it, take notes, things like that.
Jeff Sherman, our zoning administrator, is here. Jeff, does that sound like
Yeah.
a good idea?
Yeah, that's kind of the way we did the zoning ordinance in the first place, was we had different meetings. Yep.
And in order, if we're moving on this, we want to move on this, 3 to 6 months. So that means meetings would probably start soon. Okay. And so I'm just trying to review some of the things that are in the proposal and get them a little more discussion. Members of the board, what do you think about this? Chair recognizes Supervisor Keith.
John, have you worked with any of our neighboring counties on their ordinances, like Mitchell, Worth, Saragotto, Franklin?
Specifically to
Kramer,
Noble
Butler.
Energy,
Yes.
just Saragotto County that I worked
Just
for.
Saragotto.
Prior.
Those other counties would have ordinances though too, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
I'm wondering, I thought about this for a while, if it wouldn't make some sense for our county to try to take a look at what our neighboring counties have for ordinances, and maybe we can glean some information from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair thing to do. With this type of ordinance, I always recommend, attuning it to your specific needs as a county. So, but borrowing and stealing from, so to speak, from other counties is always something that is done. That's pretty regular. You'll see a lot of commonalities between various counties throughout the state, but then you'll see a lot of unique aspects as well.
If we did that, would we need your services?
That would be up to you, if you wanted to do that. I mean, we're here if you need our help, but you're welcome to do it yourself if you feel like you want to do that.
What are typically expenses? $200 meeting plus expenses. Is that just mileage?
Mileage and staff time.
Okay. How do you rate the staff time per hour?
My salary on an hourly basis. Time, cost it takes to drive up there, so that's a rough estimate or ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know how long those meetings will be. I would imagine it'd be a couple hours plus to drive up there.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Auditor Carl.
So the $2,000 isn't for any of your staff time. Your staff time is all extra for those coming to a meeting.
For those, yeah, for like listening sections, workshops and so forth, the 2,000 would be for the meetings, to go through Planning and Zoning Commission, the regular session. You have a draft, up to 3 readings, time it takes to write that, do research, that sort of thing.
That's the 2,000 is the time to write research. So we're looking at a minimum of $5,400 for 2 ordinances, less expenses, or $6,400 for 2
Tell us how you got
ordinances.
those numbers.
It's because it's 2,000 for the wind
Oh.
and 2,000 for the solar.
Minimum, I mean, 4,000 just for the amendments, both solar and wind and battery storage. If you just want to do the regular, you're very welcome to operate those meetings independently without my attendance too. That's your decision. I recommend those because, well, this is a more involved type of amendments. So especially with, it can be quite controversial too. So the reason I recommend listening sessions is so you are very open with the public and can get that specific feedback from the public for both of these workshops, just because they're really complicated. So just having that discussion with the board, planning and zoning commission to educate them on things they might not be aware of, different topics involved with wind and battery storage and solar. That's the reason I would recommend having those as well.
As a consideration of a resolution or a motion at a future date to hire NIACOG for these services, would you recommend a date specific for? I think it would likely be that we want to tackle the wind utility scale wind energy ordinance first and separate. That's a good suggestion. How about a date specific for when that could be completed?
I can get a contract prepared for you to consider probably before the end of the week, and discuss that. And it's just a matter of, I think we could get started here next month or so if you really want to.
So if we came to agreement on some terms and perhaps even took action on a contract as early as next week, we could start holding meetings then yet this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because, I mean, I'm not even going to start writing a draft for you until we kind of get that feedback.
That's right.
If you decide to go with the listening sessions and whatnot, then that way, I'm not making presumptions about your needs as a county. We'll get feedback, obviously, from your staff, yourselves, and your comprehensive plan and that sort of thing. I've already had a chance to review comprehensive plans.
Jeff, is that a schedule you think the Planning and Zoning Commission can?
Oh, yeah.
Can make?
Yeah, we're getting into the winter months, so I mean, time availability is going to be a lot better. We get it done sooner than later.
As I was thinking about this and perhaps drafting this or starting the draft of this resolution to consider the services that NIACOG is providing us, some things that came up, just kind of some things like maybe some lessons we learned from the pipeline discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know at one point you imposed a requirement that all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and all the members of the Board of Adjustment appear at any meetings regarding the consideration of the pipeline ordinance. Is that something that I don't think you're going to be able to meet that requirement for this if we're going to move on it?
Right.
So you'd be agreeable to doing something like that?
Yep.
How about another discussion in kind of in the light of openness and transparency? One of the things that we recognized from past zoning commission meetings is it takes the zoning commission a long time to publish minutes of any meetings. And is that something that I think you want more committee and community involvement? We need to see the minutes of those meetings, all minutes of meetings in a more timely basis. Think you could get that done? So
Didn't know that was an issue.
Well,
because normally Jen gets them done as soon as the meeting's done.
Well, there's a lot of record out there that would indicate that some of those minutes haven't been approved for up to a year in the past. All we're saying is,
Well, that's because we do that we don't have a regular meeting. We don't have a monthly meeting. We have a meeting as needed.
anyway, the point is, in this case, I think the board would like to see quick updates posted on your website regarding what took place at those meetings so everyone could follow through with them.
Okay.
It's just gonna have a lot of interest in this one and just kind of keep that going. Well, it just gives me some ideas as we're drafting a resolution recommending to the zoning commission what the board would like to see. Okay, where are we gonna finance this from? ARPA dollars, Rural Services Fund. As we talk about spending this money, where's it gonna come from?
That's a good question.
We spent money for ordinance development for pipelines from the ARPA funds. We could do that. Typically, zoning amendments and zoning considerations are part of the Rural Services Fund, but it wasn't handled that way when we did CO2 pipeline.
I guess it'd be okay with me. It won't be as much as we spent probably on that.
It could come from either or, I guess, couldn't it?
It could. And we just need to designate a source, and so it's available, so we know where it's coming from. And that's a decision we probably want to make for when we approve the contract and these other kind of things I'm talking about, recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission that would be included in a resolution. You want to give some thought to that or think about that some more?
Yeah, I just wondered if Auditor Carr had any input on sourcing of funds.
So I was just looking up here. I think when we did the full-blown zoning ordinance in the past, the general fund paid for it at that time. I don't think.
And that was budgeted through my department.
You think Rural Services paid for it?
I don't remember because we moved stuff around from the general fund to rural services at some point. And I don't remember if that was zoning or if that was for the Board of Health.
I looked it up at one time.
But that was in my budget to do the ordinance. We budgeted for that.
I can find it. It was $11,400. And it was paid out of the general fund. General fund out of your department, right? But general fund instead of rural services. So I would say you would either do general fund Jeff's department or general fund Department 51. Or I mean ARPA fund Department 51.
Any discussion on the board, what your preferences are there?
Maybe ARPA fund would be acceptable.
This doesn't matter to me. It's not a huge amount of money.
Right.
Maybe ARPA.
That's kind of where I'm leaning, I guess.
All right, the reason I'm kind of bringing these items up for just kind of some discussion to get your feedback in a public session is because then I'm proposing to draft a resolution not a motion. This gets a lot, we're getting into a lot of stuff for a motion to be made to accept the contract. So once if John could present an agreement order, then I'm considering drafting a resolution to summarize some of the things we're talking about here. How soon we get to this, what funding source it would be, some recommendations we have to the planning and zoning, a couple that are already mentioned. And that sort of thing that we could address and get this project started. And then there's one big one more we need to talk about. And that is, do you want to provide for a moratorium on any permit applications and include that in a resolution or not? And we probably want to talk to County Attorney Pritchard about that process, but I've been talking to several communities, talked to the auditor down in Franklin County. I got a copy of an ordinance that Saragordo County Board of Supervisors, when they imposed their moratorium on wind permits, kind of probably want to discuss that and decide that at this time too. So
I think we need to do that, to include the moratorium discussion.
I agree. I just wonder the timeline of the appropriateness of the timeline for a moratorium. Does it coincide with a resolution? Is there a difference? Or not really? Do you have any comment on that, John?
Generally, resolutions for moratoriums are by kind of themselves. I would not include our contract with that, but it could coincide with it if you desire. That's fairly regular process that counties have done for this type of amendment. But I would do them separately.
So there could be a separate consideration.
2 resolutions.
Yeah. You don't want to include that,
Yeah, just one would be to accept our contract, one would be to do a moratorium if you so desire.
Now that's drafting something I'm not prepared to work on. That's not drafting a resolution for a moratorium on wind permitting, just because I don't feel comfortable doing it. That's something that I think that the county attorney you'd want to have involved in that, and maybe that's a separate issue to getting this service started. Sounds like it is. Maybe that's not ready for consideration at our next meeting. Yes.
Probably could get Franklin counties and Mitchell, was it Mitchell County to add a moratorium as well?
No.
I'm not aware of Mitchell County, but Saragordo has one currently in place, and
Okay.
Franklin County did one for their amendment when you did there.
Yeah, I've got copies of both their resolutions that created their moratorium already. Yeah.
So Mitchell County did have one too.
No, I met Saragordo and Franklin. I don't know about Mitchell. I don't.
They did, correct.
So I understand.
So Mitchell had one too.
I thought they did as well. Short-lived though, I thought, because they passed their ordinance fairly quickly. Or was it Worth? Mitchell or Worth? I thought it had.
I talked to one of the,
Excuse me, just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Larry Boards. I did talk, I can't remember the name. I got his phone number, talked to him on the phone, and they did put a moratorium on while they were trying to decide which direction or how they were going to proceed.
It's kind of it's a separate discussion that we can talk about, because we have to have something on the table to talk about. how long it would be. What specifically is it? Is it till such time that is it, you know, till a permit? I mean, what are you doing with the moratorium? What are you stopping? Is a consideration of a permit? But I guess that can be talked about at the next meeting too on a separate agenda item.
Generally, if you do a moratorium, you wouldn't be accepting applications or issuing permits for that type of use. Generally, that's kind of how you would see the Surrey County one rate. And you can also make that timeline. You can amend that timeline as needed, so it can be shortened or lengthened if you need like an additional month or something to complete that process. So you can keep that in mind.
All right, Chair recognizes Kathy Carter.
Just for past experience, you might want to check with Bremer, Butler, Grundy counties. I think they've been through this too.
All right, so kind of this discussion has got us to the point where we've got two separate things, tracks going here. Consideration of hiring NIACOG, the discussion we've had, some recommendations we make to the Planning and Zoning Commission, some timelines, and then a separate issue over here, whether or not the Floyd County wants to enact a moratorium until such time that this is concluded. Anything else on this issue? Are you ready to consider contacting with NIACOG, or consider if they have a proposal, then drafting up a resolution and working on that as soon as our next Board of Supervisors meeting? Is there anything else we need to talk about?
That I can think of.
Nope, I don't have anything.
Certainly we need to start talking to County Attorney Pritchard about this. Let's get him involved in the drafting of this resolution that I'm kind of proposing, and then the consideration of any possible enactment of a moratorium on permits. Any further discussion regarding this?
I'm gonna probably draft them as separate contracts for wind and solar. Then give you I'll just go for the max, I guess, for the recommended process, unless you would like me to include all the meetings in that. But you can feedback and we can contract as you would like.
Yeah, personally, I just think it's a good idea to have John and NIACOG representative here for all these input sessions and all these meetings. $200 a meeting. I think it's pretty valuable to have you here to hear those, and I think that's an important process. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think it hurt to think that him involved.
Sure. Any comments, anyone listening on the conference calling line? Yes.
Evidently the phone lines went down.
Oh.
So we have our Zoom, but evidently people aren't able to call in. It still shows it's on, but people aren't able to call in. My staff came down just while we started this conversation.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Our line must still be good because it hasn't cut us off. But some people may not be able to get in.
So John, if you could get a couple of different contracts kind of together to us early.
Sure.
I'll meet with County Attorney Pritchard to talk about this drafting this resolution and a separate item of a moratorium, and perhaps as early as next week, we can consider review and action. Everybody on target with that? All right. Anything further on this item?
No.
All right. Moving to item 12 then. Thank you for your input, all of you. Discussion with county engineer regarding drainage district 3, a large hole north of Railroad near Lancer and 175th Street.
Yeah, we didn't have, I'll see when
Oh,
these
sure.
chairs didn't work. So yeah, we had just had a couple basically problems reported to Tim about drainage district work. He just did a quick brief, you know, he went out and looked really quick. I don't know the exact scope of work. But I've been talking with my staff and just with other counties about drainage district work in general. I spoke with Mark about this a little bit on Friday. I don't know if it's possible to do a policy, and I know this isn't related to just this one specifically, but a policy where if the repair is going to be under a certain dollar amount, if we would be able to, if you guys would basically be able to make a policy that we could go and do that repair without having to have an agenda item and go through all those processes. I think it would streamline the repairs, especially for these smaller repairs that are just a hole in a tile. I think it'd make it easier for us to go and do that work or find someone to do the work, you know, to speed that process up for the farmers. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. I kind of looked at average costs that from what we're getting for reimbursements, and it's usually around $1,500 on these smaller jobs. They're either, you know, $1,500 or less. So if we did something like $2,000 as a policy, if we were able to go do it, I think it'd streamline that process and make some of this a little easier. Obviously, we need an actual agenda item to discuss that. I was kind of late to call Mark about this. Friday's too late for an agenda item, but I just kind of wanted to bring that up at least just for your guys' thoughts. But I spoke with Tim this morning about the work in Drainage District 3, and right now we've got an excavator that we'd be able to send out to do this work, and he didn't think it would take too long. So I don't think that'd be a problem having us do this one.
Yes.
Who pays for these repairs? Do the farmers in the district, the drainage district pay for it?
Yep. So then it's a reimbursement for us for our time and equipment.
So if there's no money in the fund, a stamped warrant is issued. If there's money in the fund, there's no stamped warrant. If there's no money in the fund or not enough in the fund, then it has to come to you to do an assessment to the property owners. We try to build in a little bit of a fund balance for them. But yeah, you're just acting as trustees for those districts.
Yeah, there's two different drainage districts, so right, 13 and 3.
Yep.
Are we the trustees for both of those drainage districts?
Yes.
Supervisors are?
Is there only
You wouldn't even do work, from what I understand, in drainage 5 or 20 that have their own trustees. They have to do they
come up with that. They hire their own contractors.
Yeah.
Is it just 5 and 20 are the only trustee
You're
districts?
missing one.
Well, oh, it's right there. Yeah, unless it's changed, I guess. I think it's just 5 and 20. But yeah, as long as if we receive the direction to go do the one in drainage district 3, that would be fine. If you guys are comfortable with us doing that one.
Do we normally have a review and action regarding that before that, or just?
So there's action whenever you're doing an assessment. It's been done both ways by the board. But I don't necessarily think you need action to go ahead and give him direction to go ahead and do the repair and then come back when it's done. But I do think it used to be that as far as your initial conversation started with, can you guys just do the work? That's where we got some feedback from property owners that said, we didn't even know there was any work being done. And so the board the previous board said, let's just always put it on the agenda, especially with meeting every Monday now. There's usually not much delay in that conversation happening before they actually go out and do the work. So I think that's a good practice to have it on the agenda, just like we've got, there's work that needs to be done in these two. I'll go ahead and do the work, and I don't necessarily know that you'd always be able to tie a dollar to something depending on when you get out there, if it's bigger than what you thought.
Yeah.
But I do think it's good to have it come to the board and then say, go ahead and take a, usually you guys have taken a look at it before you come to the board initially anyway.
Mhm. Yeah. That's where I think we could get an estimate of the scope of work, and if, I think that it'd be helpful if we could set a dollar amount, at least an estimated dollar amount for us to be able to just go and do the work and come back with reimbursement. And maybe we need to include the landowners in that conversation and see if there's a dollar amount they're more comfortable with that they can work with the trustees on setting. I think it'd streamline the process, because if someone calls us on a Friday, that's too late to get on the next week's agenda. So then we're not on the agenda for another, till the Monday after. So sometimes some of those get delayed. And I know there were complaints about us not being able to do the work fast enough from landowners. So,
especially during planting season.
yes. So I think it would be beneficial to set some sort of limit. I don't know what the limit should be, but maybe that's something we could discuss with property owners. I don't know.
I don't know that you'd be able to, if somebody called on a Friday and said there's something, that you'd get a contractor any quicker than you get secondary roads to fix it either, honestly. Because contractors are busy, how those contractors are busy as well. I like the transparency of the board myself, but especially with ED meetings.
Yes. There won't be any assessments on those drainage districts until next fall though, right?
No, we do assessments whenever the bill's been
Right
paid.
away.
Yeah, we do. Some counties wait until fall. My position with that has been, if there's a stamped warrant, they're paying interest on a stamped warrant and they don't get a chance to pay it before next fall. So that's why our preference is for Floyd County has been, as soon as you do an assessment, you order an assessment, typically within a month, we're doing an assessment to those people.
Okay.
And then, because they're gonna pay interest on those stamped warrants, and
That's fine.
we've had property owners before who have said it's not fair that we don't get time to pay a bill before there's a stamped warrant. Well, there's no money in the fund, they're gonna have a stamped warrant and they're going to have an assessment. I'd be just as upset if we just assessed for no reason to build a fund up and then the money sits in the fund for years with no work done. So we're not gonna always make those property owners happy on those kind of things, but at least we're doing assessments quicker than some counties, like say, wait until August every year to do their assessments. We do them earlier, so they're not paying interest for longer than they.
All right, so we're on item number 12. This whole drainage district 3.
Yep.
We're just authorizing the county department to go out and fix it.
Yeah, just direction. Yeah, direction.
So we're not gonna take that review and action to do it. We're just saying, go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Both
That'd
of
be
them.
done.
Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to do them one at a time, but both of those are small enough fixes that we've got time to go ahead.
All right. So both those agenda items 12 and 13, we're just indicating to you to go ahead and fix them at this time.
Yeah.
All right. And the discussion about setting a policy, that's something we can talk about later or think about. All right. Kind of discuss that in general. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jacob.
Item 14, which is review and action resolution 41-23, setting a date for a public hearing on the amendment to the urban renewal plan for the Southwest Bypass urban renewal area. And this is amending the plan for consisting for the city of Charles City providing tax increment financing support to Zoetis in connection with their expansion of its workforce and manufacturing facilities. The resolution states that the board would meet here on November 27th at 9 a.m. They would hold a public hearing on the proposed amendment. The plan is being amended for the purpose of authorizing the undertaking of a new urban renewable project in the urban renewal area consisting of the city of Charles City, providing tax increment financing support to Zoetis Charles City in connection with their expansion of their workforce and manufacturing facilities. There is a meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock where the Southwest Bypass TIF Board will be meeting in regard to this and set some, we'll be meeting at 4 in regards to this this plan amendment. And so this has to be done by the end of the year. And what is being asked, the description of use of TIF for the project is the city intends to enter into an economic development agreement with the company. The payments will be funded with incremental property tax revenues to be derived from the expansion property. It is anticipated the city's total commitment of incremental property tax revenues with respect to the expansion project will not exceed $7.6 million plus administration fees. And the county is not providing additional tax increment financing support to the company in connection with the project. So it doesn't affect the county's total debt limit. It's coming from the city. Further discussion and some information on this?
This also requires that we have a consultation meeting with the schools. This county has to provide notice to the cities and the school, and city of Charles City and the school, and then the city will have to provide notice to the county and the schools as well. Because we have the joint TIF, we do one consultation meeting, and Steve got back to me this weekend that we could have that on the 9th of November at 9 a.m. at City Hall. And we just have one meeting that the school can come to entertain both. Typically, no one from the school shows up at those meetings, consultation, but it's just to go over the details of what Mark just went through so that they know what the intent of the project is. That I'll send notices out today if you set this hearing that those consultations have to occur before November 13th. So, time sensitive.
So that's the 27th.
The hearing for the board to pass the resolution is after the consultation meeting.
Oh.
And November 27th would be the intent that both the city of Charles City at their evening meeting and the county would entertain the hearings to pass the amendment to the urban renewal plan.
And they set a time for that TIF meeting on the 9th.
9 a.m. at City Hall. And then we do have a meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Mark and Southwest Bypass is meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon to talk about that.
And that's here.
No, that's at City Hall also.
That's the City Hall.
Yeah. Those meetings are usually at City Hall. But that's just the Southwest TIF board. And then Tim Fox is here and also Tim has anything to add to any of it or not?
Yeah. Tim, do you have any comments regarding this?
That's a good project. The development agreement has been through sundry iterations over the past, I don't know how many months, but glad to see we finally got it put down. And, one of the issues was the estimated assessed valuation. And I think the city of Zoetis negotiated an agreement with them the construct of this development agreement that we're talking about, where they went for the maximum amount that they think that the property will be assessed at. Personally, I think it's gonna be less than that, so it's not gonna be 7.6 million.
The only other thing is Steve was trying to get some clarification from Zoetis as well about their number of jobs that this would increase and how many employees they currently have. Sounds like they bumped from 450 to 525, but this was going to be 70 new jobs. We're not sure if they've already included that into the 525 or if it's 525 plus another 70 jobs. So that's being looked into to get understanding. The potential is this could go somewhere else to Omaha if expansion doesn't happen here. If they're becoming.
All right, is there further discussion regarding resolution 41-23? What it's all about? We're again setting a date and time for the hearing. And that date is November 27th at 9 a.m. or shortly thereafter here in the Floyd County Courthouse.
Looking for a motion, Mark?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 41-23. Resolution setting the date for public hearing on the amendment to the urban renewal plan for Southwest Bypass for urban renewal area.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Supervisor Jorgensen, approving resolution number 41-23. A resolution setting the date for a public hearing on amendment to the urban renewal plan for the Southwest Bypass urban renewal area. Is there any further discussion? Fortunately, we lost the phone content, so we don't have any comments from anyone on the conference call line. Any comments from anyone else in the boardroom? Hearing none. Auditor Carr, would you call the roll?
Kiefer.
Aye.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 41-23 has passed. Item 15. Review and action regarding setting the date and time for Tier 1 and Tier 2 canvass for the November 7th city and school elections. All right. There wasn't anything in our packet regarding that, was there?
No, there's not anything. Of course, the election is November 7th. We have a holiday in there. We're closed the 10th, and because of the holiday, the law allows for the canvass to be extended. So your canvass could be Monday or Tuesday for the Tier 1 canvass of the election. You have 2 canvasses of city and school elections. That started a few years back when the legislators changed to combine city and school elections. Otherwise, there was just one canvas and it was done a week after the election. Now, the first tier canvas covers everything that happened at each jurisdiction's or each county auditor's office for the election in their county. But the schools are typically the ones, well, cities as well, cross boundaries, cause a second tier canvas the way it is. So, for example, because we have, I think we have 6 or 7 registered voters in the city of Nashua that reside in Floyd County, we're going to do a canvas of what results come in for the city of Nashua and Floyd County. After you canvass on the Tier 1 canvas, we send information to the other county and they pull our numbers and their numbers to get together. The same happens with school districts. We have 6 school districts. We're control county for Red Rockford, Marlboro Rock, and Charles City School District. So we'll have our, and then we have Osage, North Butler, Nashville, Plainfield, and I'm missing something.
Central Springs.
Central Springs, thank you. So we have those 4 counties. He'll canvass the results on a week after the election. We'll send those results to the other counties. The other counties that have Charles City School District and Red Rockford Marlboro Rock School District will send their canvases to us after their first tier canvass. Then you do a second tier canvass to put all the results together. So where it used to be, the control county would just organize the workers and everything for the entire district, but now everybody votes in their county. So it creates this 2-tier canvas system. So I was waiting to do this on this day just because we sometimes have UOCAVA voters overseas or military voters. We have had none for this election. So we could do this canvas on the 13th if you'd like to. In cohorts with your next meeting, we plan on having our team come in on the 9th to do any provisional ballots. And since there's no UOCAVA voters, all ballots have to be in by 8 p.m. on the 7th on election day with the new laws. And so they don't have a week, the Monday following the election, to get absentee ballots back any longer. That changed a couple of years ago. So if you want to do the canvas on the 13th, you can do it on the 13th, or you can do it on the 14th, whichever is the preference. For tier 1. And then tier 2, you could do the same thing, just have it on the 20th. We should have all other county results back by that time, pull it all together. But this is a separate meeting. You're putting your hat on as Board of Canvassers, so it'll be a separate agenda item after your regular board meeting, unless you choose to do it on Tuesday. It's just be a canvas, Board of Canvassers.
So we can keep it on the tier 1 meeting on the 13th, and the 20th is the tier 2 meeting on a regular supervisor's meeting day, but yet on a separate, completely separate agenda after or prior.
Oh, well, yeah.
So we could meet at, say, 8:30 is a question.
I would prefer you do them after. Sometimes I'm getting stuff ready and just doing morning stuff with staff prior, so it goes after if possible.
So we don't know how long some of those meetings last. This is board meeting, so what time do you suggest on the day if we're gonna do it on the board meeting day?
You could set your time, say like 10:30 or 11 o'clock. You can always start a meeting later. You just can't start a meeting prior. So, I mean, if you had your meeting at 8:30 for the canvas and you didn't get done by 9 o'clock, you'd either recess from your canvas meeting and start your board meeting, or you just start your board meeting later. You just can't start earlier for meetings.
What would you like to do, Ward?
I'd be fine with the 13th at 8:30, but it doesn't sound like it's very convenient for Gloria. That being said, set it for the 10:30 on the 13th. As she said, we can start that canvas meeting later if need be, finish the board meeting and move into that.
10:30 on the 13th, right, Jim?
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of on the 13th is that you do have your
Meeting with the cities.
mayors.
Mayors.
Gosh, it's good. I had my folder. It seems like there's something else on the 13th, but I can't remember. But I think you'd be fine setting it at 10:30.
Canvas meetings typically don't take a lot of time, if I remember right.
Depends on which canvas. I mean, a canvas of this has, you know, like the canvas you just did before, you only had one precinct to canvas. This one you have, well, you had one precinct plus the absentee that only had one voter. But this one you'll have 9 precincts with absentee to canvas. So, I mean, if you're doing your due diligence and you're checking your numbers, that takes you some time to do that.
Well,
It's okay with me.
Okay. Need a motion. Set a time and date for the tier 1 and tier 2 canvassers.
Make a motion to set a time and date for the tier 1, tier 2 canvas, November 13th at 10.
Tier 1.
Tier 1.
One's on the 13th, tier 2's on the 20th.
Oh, excuse me. Separate motions.
You could do same motion, just different dates.
Make a motion to set the date and time for tier 1 on November 13th at 10:30 in the Board of Supervisors room. And tier 2 would be on November 20th. Did we
Same time.
same time, 10:30 Board of Supervisors room?
A second.
All right. I have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, seconded by Supervisor Kiefer, to set the tier 1 election canvas on Monday, November 13th at 10:30 a.m. here in the boardroom, and the tier 2 canvas on November 20th at 10:30 in the boardroom. Any further discussion? Did I get that right? Okay. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. All right. Item 16, future agenda items. I'll be discussing with the county attorney regarding when he can come and participate in the meeting that we're trying to schedule with the Iowa Public Information Board. All we have to do is get a time on Attorney Pritchard's schedule, so the Iowa Public Information Board will come and do that training session here in Floyd County that we've talked about and approved a motion about 3 weeks ago. We're waiting, and we'll get Todd when he is available. We'll have that. And on that point, during the daytime, is it okay? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah, doing sometime during the day. I mean, people will be able to come or they won't. But that's generally, so that's an update on that. I'll be working with Todd to see if there's anything he wants to set up regarding this consideration possibly of this moratorium. Any language he might want to consider in that. And I'll be working up a resolution on, the contracted services provided by NIACOG and those things that we discussed here at the boardroom, recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission, order of how we're going to hear things like that for next week.
Okay.
That's kind of the things that'll be on my list.
I think you covered things that were on my list.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Is item 17, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All right, moved by Supervisor Jorgensen, and seconded by Kiefer to adjourn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.